protest.
Oh, where's that at?
It's at school, it's right.
Oh,
Still going on.
Is it?
And what you
They
keep,
got
what
the,
don't you keep.
Right,
one
right.
concrete structure up, they got one.
Because sometimes
wood
it'll come
structure
back.
up.
Good morning, and welcome to the Todd County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The time is 9 a.m. All commissioners are present, along with the auditor treasurer and our coordinator. We will now rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make that motion.
Motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. And consent items?
Consent items today are the meeting minute approval for October 1st, 2024. Higher eligibility worker, I'm going to leave that name. Start date to be determined. Higher office support specialist 1, start date to be determined. Retirement accounting specialist Judy Schultz on 1/3/2025. Retirement mental health worker Ron Hibbs, 12/30/2024. A gambling permit for the Barville Sportsman's Club on 3/2/2025. And Ivy Legacy Foundation, a one-day temporary on-sale liquor license event to be held 10/26/2024.
Okay, hearing the consent items, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Noska, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? I'd just like to make a comment. I believe Judy Schultz has worked for the county for many years, so we'd like to thank her for that. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Then we'll go into the commissioners, the service awards. Jackie?
All right. So Commissioner Becker, today we'd like to honor 10 of our Todd County employees for their years of service. Many of them are here in the audience today, so we're going to ask them to come up as we read their names and receive their award. And then when we're all the way through, we'll go ahead and take a picture up at the front, okay? So we're going to start with Jessica Kern, 5 years of service. Tim Ebnett, 5 years of service. Vidi Morales, 5 years of service. Adam Ossifort, 5 years of service. Cole Youngbauer, 5 years of service. Deja Antone, 10 years of service. Casey Pepping, 10 years of service. Michael Wisniewski, 15 years of service. Julie Lambrick, 20 years of service. And Douglas Turner, 25 years of service. So let's join me in celebrating our remarkable Todd County employees for their unwavering dedication. Their commitment to serving our community is truly inspiring. All right. Denise, can you take the picture or with you? You're always good. All right. Squeeze together. This is a big room. Yeah.
Could I really just change people? Can I have the three?
Yeah,
ladies?
go ahead.
Ladies stand in front and then men squish in the background. Is that okay? Is it really can't get it?
How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thank you, Denise. Thank you.
My kids. Oh, my.
Pepe? Yeah. Oh. You never know. Yeah.
Then we'll do the warrants. I believe Denise is next.
All right, my first item today is the auditor warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the September 2024 auditor warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $3,349,564.27.
Okay, is there a motion for the auditor warrants?
So move.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, a roll call?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers? Yes. Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Next item I have then is the commissioner warrants. They were background was sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $156,547.59.
Okay, I ask for a motion for the commissioner warrants for $156,547.59.
So make that motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Byers motion, Nasca second. Discussion? If not, roll call?
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Next item I have is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $78,992.39.
Okay, I ask for a motion for the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants for $78,992.39.
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nasca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call?
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
The next item I have would be the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $132,611.59.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants, the amount of $132,611.59.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call?
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
The last item I have then today is the county fee schedule. To adopt the 2025 county fee schedule, background, Todd County has built a county fee schedule to be implemented for 2025, and a public hearing was held on October 1st, 2024 to gather any public input on the proposed fees. Your options today are to adopt the county fee schedule as presented, do not adopt the county fee schedule, or to adopt a county fee schedule with altercations. Recommendation is to adopt the 2025 county fee schedule to be effective January 1, 2025 per the attached document.
Okay, I ask for a motion for the adoption of the 2025 county fee schedule.
So moved.
Motion by Denny to adopt,
To adopt.
and is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Nasca. Discussion. Do we have any input from the outside at all?
No, we did not. No.
None.
No
Okay.
letters or comments or emails.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Next, we'll go into the environmental health ordinance, and that's a public hearing. That's scheduled for 9:15, so do we have to wait till 9:15?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do. That's as, because it was posted for the public hearing to start then, so if you wanted to take an intermission, or if you wanted to go to the assessor since he's here, we could do that.
Okay, Chris is here, so let's just jump to the assessors. Thank you, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Chris.
I am here today to present an abatement on behalf of parcel 15-007820. On June 16th, 2024, there was a fire in the garage, totally destroyed the garage and damaged the house. The owners have applied for an abatement for the 2024 property tax and a reduction of the 24 market value for taxes payable in 25. I have some background in the packet if you want to scroll, Denise. This is a picture taken shortly after the fire. The assessor was standing in the garage at the time. Clearly, it's not there. The siding's damaged. The owners also, they weren't home at the time, but they said there was some water damage from the firefighting efforts. Next page shows the 23 payable 24 field sheet with our new proposed values. You can keep going pretty fast through these. My math. How the taxes would be recalculated afterward. The total difference between the two is $303, but there's only 6 months of unusable time, so therefore it's a 50% reduction of the difference, which is $152. The next couple of sheets basically show the same thing, just in a 24 version. And statute follows that. So that was the background. So today our options are to approve the abatement of the 24 property tax in the amount of $152 and a reduction of the 24 market value of $35,100. The other option is to deny the requested abatement and value reduction. My recommendation is to approve the abatement of the 24 property tax amount of $152 and a reduction of the 24 market value of $35,100.
Okay, I would ask for a motion for the abatement for the property of 15-0078-200. And that will be 152 reduction in the 24 market value of 35,100.
I'll make a motion to approve that abatement.
Okay, motion by Nazca. Is there a second by Newman? Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We still have 2 minutes to wait.
Perfect.
Okay,
Fit it in.
Good morning.
good morning, Mike.
Morning.
The board action that we have before you is our drainage for the west ramp. The CAP grant project included regarding the ramp to the west side of the property. After completion, staff have observed that there is not good enough drainage from the bottom of the ramp to the new ditches on the east side of the property. A ditch and structure are needed to provide the drainage. After meeting with Highway Engineer Fellbaum, has offered the Highway Department forces to perform the improvements of the design and do the ditch work is provided by the project engineer Stantec. So Stantec has provided us with a design and has attached addendum number 4 for the estimated amount of $8,200. And the option is to approve the department to sign the addendum for $8,200 or do not approve it. It is our recommendation to approve the addendum 4 of $8,200 for the design of the drainage system.
Okay, I would ask for a motion for the drainage for the west ramp of the solid waste for $8,200.
Madam Chair, I'll move to authorize department to sign amendment 4 for $8,200.
Okay, motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Looking good up there.
Now we'll go back to the environmental health ordinance public hearing.
Background is County Health and Human Services has revised its environmental health ordinance to be implemented in 2025 and is required by Minnesota statute. Thanks. Is required by Minnesota statute to hold a public hearing to gather public input on the revisions. Notice of this public hearing has been published in the Todd County newspapers the weeks of September 23 and 30th, 2024, and is posted on the county website. A copy of the revised ordinance is attached. Recommendation is as follows. Accepting it, I would imagine. Or we're just holding the hearing right now. This is just the first hearing, right?
This is only
And then
the
you'll bring
first
it-
hearing.
Yeah.
So we can't approve
No.
this. Just, so is there,
It's just a public hearing. So
Yeah.
if there's any public comment, this is the time they could speak up.
yeah, is there any public comment at this time? Seeing or hearing no public comment, we will continue on. There's no length of time we have to keep it open, is there?
No, no,
Okay. So
Just that we
then we'll
held
go
it.
down to county ditch inspector, I believe is the next on the list.
we did the abatement one already. We jumped ahead, we had some time.
Good morning.
Good morning. I got 2 agenda items. My first one is noxious weed invasive plant grant application 2025. The background, I sent the noxious weed invasive plant grant 2025 request for proposals. The MDA has released their 2025 request for proposals for the next round of noxious weed and invasive plant grants. The 2025 grant is reimbursable only, and there will not be any upfront money. Todd County will need to cover the expenses until the reimbursement is given. The amount requested would be $15,000 to hire a chemical applicator contractor to treat 3 miles of township roads around Palmer Amaranth Fields and to spray county road right-of-way for wild parsnip. The options are to approve the county ag inspector applying for the grant or do not approve the county ag inspector applying for the grant. And the recommendation, Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion: approves the county ag inspector pursuing the noxious weed and invasive plant grant by submitting an application. The financial implications will be $15,000. The funding source is general fund until reimbursed, and budgeted is no.
Okay,
And this is just basically permission for me to apply for the
to
grant.
apply for the grant.
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion for the noxious weed and plant grant application for 2025?
I'll make a motion to approve the ditch and ag inspector applying for that grant.
Okay, we have a motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is to set the date and time for repair hearing for County Ditch 41. The background, the Ditch Authority needs to set a date and time for a repair hearing for a maintenance project on this ditch. Rinky Noonan attorney Cale Van Bruggen is available November 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The options are approve the date and time for a repair hearing or recommend a different date and time for the repair hearing. Recommendation, the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acting as Ditch Authority, set November 14th, 2024 as the date for a repair hearing for a start time of 6 p.m. with a start time of 6 p.m. to be held at the county boardroom. Financial implications, the funding source will be County Ditch 41 Maintenance Fund. Budgeted, no, and this will be completely covered by the money that is already in the maintenance fund to cover these expenses.
Okay. I'd ask for a motion for the setting of the time for County Ditch 41 for November 14th at 6 PM.
I move to make that motion.
Okay, motion by Byers. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
And then we'll jump down to planning and zoning, I believe is the next on.
Good morning.
Good morning, Adam.
First item here is the Munson request for CUP. An application for CUP to establish a ground-mounted solar energy system on parcel 2800170000 in Wycombe Township was submitted on October 13th. The need for the CUP is a result of the proposal being in excess of 120% of the annual average energy consumption of the property. This application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the October 3rd meeting. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the conditions identified below. Options are to grant the CUP with the conditions, develop findings to deny the CUP, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP with the following conditions. Number one, a single row of conifers shall be established to the north side of the proposed solar array. 2, applicant shall submit a property line survey to the county prior to issuance of land use permits. 3, applicant must obtain permitting and/or licensing from additional governmental agencies as necessary. And 4, submission of the interconnection agreement with the electric service provider prior to issuance of land use permits.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion for the Munson request for the CUP.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. How many acres is this?
It's really just a small one.
Okay.
It's a single row. I want it 175 feet long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just a single array. It's just that property is like their away from home place, so they don't have a lot of energy consumption, so it was real easy to exceed that 120% standard, which triggered the need for CUP.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay, next is the amendment to section 505 of Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance. On July 16th, 2024, direction was given to review section 505 of the Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance for inclusion of additional requirements to the application for a CUP. The Planning Commission reviewed this section during the September and October public hearings. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to not make any changes to section 505. The options are to make no changes to section 505, propose language for an amendment to section 505, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and make no changes to section 5.05 of the Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the Planning Commission's not to change section 5.05?
Discussion, Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Sure. So this is when we were looking to amend to make them require other state permits prior to coming for our CUP? Okay.
Yep.
Adam, if I could, were they made aware of the consequences of them passing something and then putting the board into a lawsuit? And I think that's why we were kind of asking for some of this to be done ahead of time before it reached the board.
Sure, we didn't have specific discussions on that. We looked at just the agenda topic of this section alone. If that is something we want to discuss further before making a decision, we're not up against any timelines. We're not subject to 1599 when the ordinance amendment is initiated by the county. So we're not in any position to make it or have to make a decision right now. But if you have specific things you want presented to the Planning Commission, we can take this back and consider those and see what they say from there. Or again, you can make a decision today too.
May I?
Yes.
Adam, would this be in relation to that email that we recently got about, I think you got some input from other planning and zoning folks and how they did it, how they do it?
Yeah, back when we were originally talking about this in July or whenever that was,
Right.
those conversations, yeah, I had reached out to a number of different area counties. I believe it was Traverse County was looking at making some of these changes, but they hadn't yet. I found one county out there that did have language similar to this, but it was restricted to just applying for the DNR water withdrawals permit. There was no other types of permits out there that they were requiring in advance. I'd reached out to Winona County at the time, and I did get an opinion from Jason Kabushek too, that was read at the Planning Commission meeting too, which I can read here too if you'd like also. But yeah, took that information, which is what generated the conversation back in July.
Would you mind reading what Jason?
Sure.
Jason did have prepared for planning and zoning.
So again, this is from Jason Kabushek. It said, you asked me to weigh in on requiring CUP applicants to obtain all required permits before applying for CUPs, as opposed to placing a condition on the CUP which requires all permits to be obtained before the CUP can be acted upon. For most applicants, it is not practical to seek all of their permits before applying for a CUP. Moreover, if all other permits are issued, then it would be more difficult for the county to deny a CUP. My preferred practice is to add the conditions that all other permits must be obtained prior to the applicant acting upon the CUP. I would also indicate the CUP cannot be recorded until all the conditions have been met. This would prohibit an applicant from moving forward with a partially approved project.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one I was
Yep.
referencing.
So Madam Chair, have you checked with AMC? I mean, went through AMC and asked them what,
If they have any opinion on, do you have somebody specific? Because I would be happy to do that and we can go whatever direction with that from here too.
I'd get a hold of Julie Ring, the director, and she's gonna send you through somebody, probably through environmental.
Sure. What was the last name again?
Julie Ring.
Jackie would have that information.
Jackie's got
Okay,
all that
perfect.
information. I'm just curious on this.
Yep, well, we can gather any more information that you're looking for, and then, I mean, we can just table this today and take it back to the
would
next
table
meeting, or we can bring it back to the planning commission to whatever direction you wish to go.
So board, what would you like to do with this?
I think we should table it till we get more information.
So you want to table it here, or do you want to send it back to the planning commission? It'd have to be sent back to the planning commission, because they would have to change it before we could, or? how does-
Well, we can
Yes,
still,
no.
we can still remand it back after we table it here.
Okay.
We need to see what information he comes up
It
with.
did, yeah. It
Okay.
just pushes the
Because
timeline out a little bit,
I
but
like that idea, and especially, I mean, if we can add the condition that it's not recorded until all the state permits are met, that kind of does cover us a little more than
does.
making them apply for it prior.
and that's already the standard.
Kind of a coverall, because we haven't, that's not general practice for us. It hasn't been.
No, and it is now.
It is now.
It
yeah.
certainly
Right,
is, yes.
Right, absolutely.
Yep.
So it kind of gives us that coverage that we would get.
The gate will still be locked until they do that.
Until they get the permits, yeah, they're still
Okay.
not open until they get the permits.
And
And-
our district meeting is Friday
Friday.
up in Fergus Falls, so I mean, you'll have, what, 13, 14 counties there, 11? I don't know.
Yeah, okay, at the request of Commissioner Newman, this will be tabled until, are we okay for the next meeting, or should we go a meeting in between?
I think we'd be fine for the next one.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
Okay.
Then we'll go on to the how do you say it?
Swartzentruber.
Very good.
Okay. The Swartzentruber Amish Cemetery Final Plat, an application for subdivision to establish a private cemetery on parcel 15-002-8400 in Leslie Township was submitted on July 13th, 2022. Preliminary plat was approved by the County Board of Commissioners on 10/18/2022 with the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall remain compliant with applicable local, state, and federal regulations related to the operations of a cemetery. 2, declare a cemetery official and an alternate that will be responsible for the following state rules and provide contact information to the county to be recorded with the final plat. 3, maintain a list of individuals buried in exact locations within the cemetery. And 4, that the cemetery plot must be completely fenced off with boundaries clearly identified. All burial sites must remain inside the fenced area. A request to extend this deadline for the final plat was granted on September 5th, 2023 by the Board of Commissioners with a new deadline of October 18th, 2024. Planning and zoning has completed the review of the Swartz and Truber Amish Cemetery and determined that it's ready for final platting. Options are to approve the final plat as presented or deny the final plat. Recommendation is approval of the final plat as presented to formally establish the Swartz and Truber Amish Cemetery.
Okay, I ask for a motion for the Troop Amish Cemetery final plot.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion?
Madam Chair, please.
Yes.
A quick question, maybe just for my own lack of knowledge. How are cemeteries zoned? What's their actual classification?
I'd have to look in our ordinance. Most of them that we have are in ag districts. The one thing we know is that they have to be platted, so they have that clearly identified boundary, and then the county board has the opportunity to attach conditions to that proposal too. If just off the top of my head without looking, I believe they are an allowed conditional use in all districts.
How are they zoned from a taxation standpoint?
There you go.
Sorry, let me clarify.
No, that's good.
In reference to your question, there's two, so you're kind of thinking tax exempt or taxable, I'm assuming. Some
Is it
cemeteries.
residential? I mean, is it business? Is it light? What, I mean, or is it like non?
Right,
Help me
so some cemeteries are taxable and some are tax exempt. The difference is the ownership. If ownership is owned by an entity that is available, a tax exempt entity, then they can become tax exempt upon application. So ownership and use are both required. A natural person will never be exempt, and a business that's doing business for profit will also not be exempt. So both of those conditions must be met. If it's taxable, it will probably be, well, ironically residential, just because we don't have anything else. So it'd be a 1% tax rate, which is the vast majority of our tax system is a 1% tax rate.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you, Adam. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning.
All right, we have a few BAFs to present in front of you today. The first one, unfortunately, is to rescind one board action form. And the number of 2024917-02, this was a care coordinator that we had brought to board to hire, and she ended up staying where she's at, so we need to rescind that. Again, we're looking to recruit for that position again as a care coordinator. Your options are to approve the rescinding of the board action tracking number 20240917-02, or to not approve. It's our recommendation we rescind that board action form.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to rescind board action tracking number 20240917-02.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
We're sad to not see that applicant come. She would have been a good add to the unit, but we'll start over, and it's been a opening for quite a while. So let's start over again. All right, second board action form is the elimination of a mental health worker position. We did bring this to work session and through personnel. Some background, Ron Hibbs has submitted his retirement from the mental health worker position as of 12/30/2024. With the retirement of the mental health worker, it has been decided that the position is no longer needed. A social worker position will meet the needs of the adult services unit. Your options are to approve the elimination of the mental health worker position or to not approve. It's our recommendation we go ahead and remove that position as a mental health worker.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion for the elimination of the mental health worker position as of 12/30/24.
Yes.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
The next board action form is a complement to that last one. Request to hire a social worker position. Some background, at the Commissioners' work session on October 1st, 2024, the elimination of the mental health worker position and creation of social worker position in the Adult Services Unit was discussed. The social worker position is needed prior to the elimination of the mental health worker to train the new position as a social worker. Your options are authorizing the hiring of the social worker in the Adult Services Unit, or to not authorize. It's our recommendation we hire it. We authorize the hiring of the social worker in the Adult Services Unit. We have that as not budgeted, but it's a cost savings to the unit as it's a grade difference. So,
Okay. A motion to hire a social worker for the Adult Service Unit.
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Byers. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
thank you. Our next BAF is the opioid settlement funding proposal, March conference, and I had to look that up myself. So it's the Minnesota Association of Resources for Recovery and Chemical Health. Some background. The Todd County Opioid Settlement Advisory Council met on September 18th, 2024, and reviewed the attached funding request and approved for funding. This request allows 2 staff from Better Days Treatment Center to attend the March conference in St. Paul on October 28th through the 30th, 2024. The conference provides behavioral health professionals with quality training opportunities and continuing education. Your options are to approve the opioid settlement request for March training, the training conference, or to not approve. It's our recommendation you approve the settlement funding request for the March conference for Better Days.
Okay, I ask for a motion for the opioid settlement funding proposal for $1,407.38 for the March conference for two to attend.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if we may, I need to go back to 11.2. The
11.1?
amendment to section, 11.2, the amendment to section 5 that you were tabling.
Yes.
Were you tabling that as a chair? Because you can do that, but
Newman
Randy
tabled
did.
it.
Then I need a second, and I don't think I heard a second. If there was a second, please let me know, because I missed it. That's why I'm going
No,
back.
but I questioned if we needed a second on a table, if a table was tabled. We've had this discussion in past history.
I'd second it if you like a second.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, if, Madam Chair, if you table it, we can just move on. But
Okay.
if another board member tables, I do need a second. Thank you for that.
okay.
Good catch.
Then we'll go on to 13.
Okay. At the January 2nd, 2024 board meeting, the first board meeting date in December was changed to accommodate the potential Association of Minnesota Counties conference, which is typically held during the first week of December. However, this year, it will not conflict with the first Tuesday in December. So the request to the board is to move the Friday, December 6th, 2024 board meeting back to the original December 3rd, 2024 meeting date. Your options are to approve moving the December 6th, 2024 board meeting back to December 3rd, 2024, or keep the December 6th, 2024 meeting date the same.
Okay. With that, I'd have to ask for some discussion. It was brought up to myself, and I thought we would bring it to the board meeting. It gives you some time if anybody's going anyplace for Thanksgiving. gives you an extra day before you have to be back. Or if you want to move it back to a Tuesday, the normal day. With that, I would ask for a motion and what you would like to have done with that meeting date.
I'll make a motion, we move it back December 3rd.
Okay, there's a motion to move it back to December 3rd. Is there a second? Motion by Byers,
I'll second that.
second by Nazca. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there one of us that needs a little extra time, that it would be beneficial if we left it out later? Does anyone have a conflict?
Nope.
Okay, yeah,
No.
then I'm good with it, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carries. Okay, next will be insurance renewal.
The board action form I have is for our 2025 insurance renewal. Background on this board action form is the Better Health Collective. Sourcewell is an insurance pool that the county is part of. Sourcewell, the Better Health Collective, operates as a political subdivision joint self-insured pool in accordance with Minnesota State Statute 471.617 and Minnesota Rule Chapter 2785. In turn, per Minnesota State statute regulation, the pool must market/bid for the TPA every 4 years. This meant that 1/1/25 was the next date that the Sourcewell Better Health Collective plan needed to market. The board of directors that governs the insurance pool did their due diligence in the RFP process efforts this spring. After evaluating several factors, came to the conclusion that Blue Cross Blue Shield would be the best, lowest cost TPA partner for 1/1/25. Therefore, Blue Cross Blue Shield won the bid, and all groups in the pool will subsequently move from Health Partners as the TPA to Blue Cross Blue Shield as the TPA on 1/1/25. So with this, our renewal date, we have to have our insurance renewals to the Better Health Collective today. So option one would be renew with plans of your choosing with the Better Health Collective for plan year 2025. The recommendation would be Todd County's medical broker Gallagher suggested renewing the current plans 1, 5, and 8.
Nellie, is that the same plans we're carrying now?
Correct, yes.
Okay. With that, I'd ask for a motion to accept the Gallagher, or to the insurance renewal for 2025 with the plans 1, 5, and 8.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
To
motion
accept 1, 5, and 8.
By Nazca, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you, Nellie. With that, Denise, do we need to take a few-minute break till we get things set up? Is he on?
All right, Eric, if you're ready, if you want to unmute so we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, give me one moment.
I'm gonna do this. And should be sharing his screen here. Yep.
All right. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see and hear you. Jackie, do you want to join Nellie? And do you have any comments before we start the presentation?
Grab my. Okay.
Okay, Commissioners, at this time, Gallagher is going to present the Todd County class and compensation study. After the presentation, the options will be for you to accept the Gallagher class and compensation study or do not accept the Gallagher class and compensation study. So with that, I'll turn this over to Eric Smetana, our Managing Director of Gallagher.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen with you all. You just confirm that you see it for me. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
It says Todd County Compensation Study.
Eric, are you able to put it in presenter mode so it's full screen?
Is it not? Let me try this here again. It's showing as full screen on my end. Bear with me. Is that showing full screen?
No. If not, commissioners, are you able to read that? Are we good if?
Well, I can read that one,
Yeah.
but let's see the next one. There's a lot of information on there.
Can you see full screen now?
No.
I think you,
Do you have to, I was gonna say, do you have to choose to share the full screen? What do you click, what screen you're sharing?
Here, let me see if full screen works.
I just got the one Jackie brought up last night.
Can you see full screen now?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. Thanks for your patience there. Thank you, commissioners, for the conversation today. I will walk through the study, the information, the recommendations, and so on that we've completed with the county over the last year. What we'll talk about today, we'll talk about the purpose of the study, the timeline, the findings, the recommendations, the analysis and the models that we developed, additional recommendations, and our cost analysis. So we kicked this project off just over a year ago. We last fall went through a data collection, data analysis process. We looked at initial findings based on the market data. Earlier this year, late winter, early spring, we went through a PDQ process in which we collected information from employees that help inform both the classification component, the mapping of roles to the market, as well as reviewing it for an internal and pay equity perspective. We developed and drafted pay structures late spring, and then over the course of the summer, we've been doing cost modeling and working through final reports and deliverables leading us to today. So the purpose of the study is to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of classifications, ensure fair and equitable compensation, establish pay ranges, benchmarking standards, implement a new compensation model that is refreshed and allows you to more effectively and continue to recruit and retain talented employees, maintain your pay equity compliance, as well as enable sort of easy maintenance on a going forward basis. And we'll talk about each of these things as we work our way through the slide deck. Starting with the classification study. So as we talk about the classification study, what we're really looking at are a handful of things. Part of this is where we take a deep dive into your FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Acts, exemptions and status there to ensure that you're compliant with that. both from a salary test basis, but also from a duties test basis, more so in the classification piece. And this is where we create that structure around how are the titles structured, how is the overall framework built out, how do we map roles within that, and how do we build that overall, thinking about what does that look and feel like from a career perspective, and understanding what do roles really truly do. And so this part of the process was highly informed through the job descriptions, but even more so through the position description questionnaire process in which we collected that information from employees. And so that process really started with distributing those PDQs to the employees. They completed those as individuals, sometimes in small groups, and then they were reviewed by supervisors, HR, and then they came to us. And we used those documents for a handful of activities through the course of the study to really make sure we understood not just what titles were, but what were those roles doing within the county. As we use that information, we move towards job evaluation. When we talk about job evaluation, what we're really talking about is the levels of job within the structure. How do they get assigned to pay grades, etc. And so we started that process through what we call a market analysis approach. And that means we're taking what we know about a role, looking for similarly situated roles in the market, and then mapping it to that and saying this role pays this specific amount of dollars as a market rate, and building a structure off of that initially to understand what does the market tell us about the roles. Then we went through a multi-tier process matching positions to the Minnesota state point or the state match system. And so the state maintains a system that's published on the state website. Jamie Parker, who is my consultant too in this engagement, along with myself, we both independently reviewed every position relative to the state match process, and then we calibrated that to see where we had outliers, differences, and anomalies to make sure that we were consistent in how we were thinking about those positions relative to those matches. And again, we use the PDQs as the primary driver to understand what are jobs doing and matching it to that. And then just to ensure as sort of a final step in calibration, we internally reviewed it using our internal point factor system to make sure that we didn't identify or see any other nuances or outliers within that leveling, just as sort of a confirmation process with that. But using the state match as the primary driver for the evaluation approach and system, in large part because it's a process that can be well maintained by the county independently on a going forward basis. And we'll talk a little bit more about each of these just to give a richer understanding. And so as we think about job evaluation, it starts with that data collection process. And so when we do that, we work through this sort of set of steps to understand what are the employees telling us about their roles, the duties they perform, et cetera. But we're looking at it oftentimes through that lens of the complexity, the skills, the responsibilities associated with each of those roles, and how do they stack up against each other based on what we're seeing from that information. So we're looking at positions, the summaries, job documentation, those PDQs, and we're looking at that role by role to really get that understanding. And then we go through a process in which we're looking at those across those different methodologies to really ensure that we're confirming what we're seeing and we're highly calibrating it. As I said, we started with that market approach. We moved into the state point match system, which is sort of the process going forward. And then we just confirm that using our JET point factor system, just to make sure we understood that, as well as having conversations both with county leadership as well as the commissioners at different points of this process to understand how roles are viewed and perceived to make sure we weren't misunderstanding anything. So digging into each of those processes a little bit further, that first step we took was the market analysis approach. And this, again, we looked at what we'll call custom survey. We facilitated a custom survey in which we worked with the county, identified comparators, developed a survey, sent that survey out to those comparable counties. And then we also leveraged the AMC data, so the Association of Minnesota Counties database. Gallagher manages that particular database, and so we're able to leverage that information directly. And we use those two data components to understand what is the market, to build those structures, and so on. This is an easy to maintain approach, but it is very market driven. And so recognizing within Minnesota the pay equity portal compliance and other sort of nuances, we then took that a step further and we started to talk through and work through the Minnesota State Job Match System. And so here, this is a system, as I said before, it is a lengthy and robust structure that has been around for quite a while, and it's used across the state. And it has a database or a listing of positions, pre-assigned point values based on what a role does, how it's structured. It talks about how these roles are positioned in similar organizations across the state. And so we went through that. And so we went through a review and a recommendations process to make sure we understood what we were seeing, how we were seeing it, what we were going to do with that, leveraging the PDQs and the job documentation. But that allows us to then ensure that your positions within the county are consistently aligned within a structure. And it's designed to be linked to the pay equity process at the state level. And so it inherently fosters a sense of coherence, consistency, and fairness within how it's approached. And that's our approach recommendation to maintain the structure on a going forward basis, because the state maintains those systems and makes regular updates to that structure every year, every couple of years. From there, we also use those PDQs once we created that structure to understand we know what jobs are doing, but let's look at whether or not they continue or do it from the start meet the standards for FLSA or Fair Labor Standards Act exemption. When we talk about FLSA, there are essentially two tests, if you will. The first is what's called the salary basis test. That had a slight adjustment in July, but and there's a potential adjustment again upcoming this January. We'll see if that continues to move through, but as of right now, that there is an anticipated adjustment to that. So we look through the lens of both the July adjustment as well as the January adjustment for your jobs that are currently exempt or salaried. We did not identify outliers to that. Then we looked at it through the duties test in which we said, here what this job, the duties this role performs. And so based on those duties, does it operate with a level of independent discretion, autonomy, and impact on the organization through its decision making to meet that exemption criteria? Because in order to be exempt, you have to meet both of those pieces, both the salary test as well as the duties test, in that order. And so we did identify one position that we're working with leadership to ensure that we understand it fully, and if adjustments need to be made, address that. Through that, we worked through that process, and we've incorporated these findings and recommendations into our final report. And this also helps to ensure both a fair and competitive pay practice, to ensure that we're looking at roles in sort of the appropriate way through the right lens and tying it back to similarly situated positions in the market. For the compensation study, we follow some best practices or leading practices when we go through this process. We follow all Department of Justice and Department of Labor and FTC guidelines in terms of data aggregation, job matching, and analysis. And this really ties back to our custom survey work, in which the standards there set forth essentially say that for any one position, we have to have 5 data matches to be able to provide and review that data through that custom survey process. And then our data matching process, we worked through a handful of standards there. The first being that when we looked at those PDQs and that job documentation, we follow World at Work standards. World at Work is being sort of the premier professional association in the compensation space that says these duties are at least similar by 80% or more in terms of the duties, the responsibilities, et cetera. And so when we match these jobs within the state point match system and pull the data back in and look at that structure, we're really looking to say, do these roles perform similar kinds of duties based on our assessment and understanding of the information? From that data analysis process and those leading practices, then we then start to pull in the data. And so, as I said before, we use 2 sets of data, and we'll talk a little bit more about that data here in a moment. The first was a custom survey in which we facilitated that to peer counties and organizations. The second was the Association of Minnesota Counties data. We had 57 benchmark positions. The number I'm going to focus on slightly here is the market 50th. And I'm focused on that because generally when we talk about the market rate, what that number really means when you hear that number is the market 50th or the median of the market. And so relative to the market 50th, the county is 4% behind the market overall across those various positions. And to give context and perspective to that, when we talk with organizations about their position relative to the market, we define it in these 4 buckets here at the bottom of the screen. The first being what we call highly competitive, meaning that you've been doing your due diligence, you're aware of what the market is, you've been making COLA adjustments and other adjustments over time to maintain that. And so you're highly competitive. It may not mean that you're leading the market, but you are highly market aware, and you know where the market is, and you've been proactively looking at that. And that's usually anything from 0% to just shy of 5%, 4.9% is what we would call highly competitive. Competitive being 5% to 9.9%, slightly misaligned, 10% to 14.9%, and significantly misaligned, 15% or greater. And this is either side of those market rates, so below the market or above the market in all cases. And so as we looked at the data from the custom survey and from the AMC data, the county is just about 4% below the market median, which falls into that highly competitive bucket overall. From that data collection process, you've heard me talk a little bit about those peer organizations, et cetera. There were 26 peer organizations, so other counties in the state of Minnesota. And there's a lot going on in this slide, so I'm going to walk through it. And so the first part was we developed that custom survey and we sent that out to all 26 counties. And so what you can see here with this little single asterisk on the left-hand side of some of the county names, that indicates that they participated in the custom survey. And so you had 11 counties that participated in that custom survey. If you see 2 asterisks, that means they were not inside the AMC data. Everyone else, that if they don't have that double asterisk, were inside the AMC database. And so in short, what that really means is that we have data across all of your positions from all 26 counties, because in those instances where those 2 counties that did not participate in the AMC survey, they participated in the custom survey. So we still have their information, that being Cass County and Freeborn County. And so we have information across all 26 counties, 24 of those being inside the AMC database, 11 of those participating within the custom survey. And in many of those cases, we had 9 of those organizations that participated in both. And so we have really good sound data from that comparator group. Taking that information, both what we've done from a classification structure, from understanding the market and the compensation, what is that telling us? We move towards developing a pay structure, and what does that look like? And when we think about a pay structure, really we're focused on a handful of variables. The first is, how do we ensure that you are market competitive? And given that you're just about 4% behind the market right now and you're highly competitive, how do we help maintain that as we think about that structure? How do we build a structure that is clear and creates clarity, that allows you to think about career progression, and also is flexible and agile enough that you can maintain and sustain and continue to build upon it over time? And so as we look at that, we refreshed and rebuilt a step structure within the county. And so we can see here across the top, we have the step levels, and here on the vertical, we have the step grades. Across within any given grade from step to step, that's a 2% differential from step to step. And then as we work our way across there, from grade to grade, that's an 8% differential built in that we've anchored within the broader market, et cetera. And so this allows for career progression over time, leveraging your existing step process and so on, and be able to maintain that. One of the things that we do leave behind with the county is a step structure tool, so that you're able to independently maintain this on a going forward. So in the event you ever have to adjust those differentials from step to step or grade to grade, or you want to apply some other sort of factor to it, it becomes a fairly easy process with a couple clicks to maintain on a going forward basis once you have the data and understand the adjustments you want to make. So to our recommendations, the first is implementing that 17 pay grade structure, that step structure that we saw before, that really is focused on how can you continue to be effective in your recruitment and retention efforts and maintain that level of market competitiveness that you have today. We have recommendations centered around adjusting employee pay for those who fall below the minimum of those pay grades to make sure everyone's paid inside the structure. We also recommend adjusting employees' pay by placing employees on the step of best fit. So that means the next closest step in their assigned pay grade. So that ensures that the employees are continuing to move up and through that structure and receiving increases holistically across the organization. Recommendation 4, grouping those jobs of similar skill, role, et cetera, within the hierarchy. And so that's really talking about those job evaluations, that framework, and how does that work, and putting that all together. Recommendation 5, we would recommend that you review market trends on an annual basis and look at not just the employee adjustments that you may be making through COLA, et cetera, and that annualized sort of step process, but also adjusting your structure on a going forward basis. And one of the takeaways that we'll work with the leadership team is talking about how we would adjust that on a going forward basis so they can again maintain that independently on a going forward. And then we would recommend, if you maintain this, you can probably get away with adjusting or doing a broader study for about 5 years or so, but conducting a comprehensive market study every 3 to 5 years. But if you maintain that structure on an annual basis, generally you can get away with up to 5 years there if you're having that other information that you're working through. From a cost implementation perspective, we have here on the screen a couple handful of notes here just to think about. This was built, no pay cuts will occur. No employees will be paid below the minimum. There is no one that is above their pay range maximum. And these cost projections are based on the most recent census that we have from within the last couple months. And so obviously you're a county that grows and evolves and adds new employees on a regular basis. And so there's a little bit of fluctuation to this. But looking at the current total payroll cost that we have, about $14.5 million, those adjustments to the minimum, that affects about 57 individuals. That's about $135,000, so less than 1% of payroll. Then additionally to that, making adjustments to placement on the step scale for those employees who are within the structure, but they need that adjustment, and so that all employees are essentially impacted. That again is less than 1% of payroll, with an estimated $260,000 in change there in terms of increase in payroll costs. So just shy of 2%, so 1.79% of the current payroll to make those recommended adjustments. Last but not least, recognizing that this is a pretty significant change process, and that we went through the classification process, those job evaluations, we put roles, matching it to the state match. We're working with the county team there to finalize an appeals process. And so what that is really designed to do is, if an employee receives notice of what their classification is and they believe it's not correct or it's not on point, and that the description of that isn't appropriate or correct, or that they think that something's been missed essentially in terms of the duties, what they do, we're developing and working to finalize that appeal process, the guidelines, and appeal form, and hopefully we'll have those ready within the next week or so, so employees can work through that process if they do have those questions and they want to appeal that, so we make sure that everyone understands what the classifications are, how they work, and that they feel good about that process, and if they have questions, they can certainly work through that appeal process. That is my last slide of content. I'll stop sharing for now, and happy to try and address any questions you may have, or so on.
Commissioners? If not, I would ask for a motion to accept the Gallagher class and comp study.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Newman, is there a second? Is there a second to accept the Gallagher class and comp study?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'm still not completely sold on this. You know, those PDQs that all you department heads went through with all your, with your employees underneath you, they weren't utilized until the last month or so. So all the work that was done prior to that, the PDQs weren't even taken into consideration. And I didn't see anything change after they were taken into consideration. So I really don't like that about it. And I don't like that, the state job match that they used didn't necessarily match up with a lot of our positions correctly. So that's just my thoughts on it. I mean, I just wasn't all of that impressed with it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, it's our responsibility to do that comp study. Not everybody's gonna be happy with it. This is my second one that I've been involved in, and are things perfect? No. You know, and you're gonna have individuals out there that are gonna pick this thing apart. And it's like, we're, as a board, trying to do the best interest for our employees, okay? We're trying to keep our wages competitive with the surrounding counties, but, you know, that's beyond our control. You know, we can keep them competitive, but if somebody wants to leave for 50 cents more an hour or $1 more an hour, they can do that. So there's probably some changes we're gonna have to do, and that's what the appeal process is set up for. You know, so we got a few individuals that we need to look at. We'll look at them. But right now, we need to keep moving forward with this comp study and go from there.
Any further?
Madam Chair, if I may as well.
Yeah.
I have to mimic what Commissioner Noska was saying as well. The recommendations that we were making for the many times that we met, I felt like were never returned with the correct information. So it's, again, I get it. We could lose people for 50 cents or $1, but we don't want to do that. We want to do our best to keep them here. So that's why we make the recommendations to get them placed in the right position so we don't lose people. We want to retain everybody we can and treat them fairly. And so again, I just feel like, honestly, this was a big letdown. Commissioner Noska is 100% right. The PDQs were not looked at until the end here. And that was so disappointing because I know how much time and effort go into all that information. And for that just to be kind of put by the wayside right away was frustrating, to say the least.
Any further information? And I think towards the end, they did get looked at.
Towards the end, correct.
Yes, they did.
Gallagher
Okay.
did step up and.
I think we'll do roll call. I didn't want any further discussion. Otherwise, we'll
I
do
guess
roll call. Okay.
I would like to say that through this process, I do think that, you know, there were some challenges. The appeals process is probably the mechanism that's in place if someone feels like their step or grade is not correct. So, you know, it's a big framework, 200+ employees, and did we get what was delivered? I guess that's part of why the appeal process is there, so that we do attempt to treat everyone, you know, put them in the right position scale. So that's all I have to say.
Roll call.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
No.
Commissioner Noska,
No.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes. With that, we'll go into standing reports then.
Auditor Treasurer's report today is
was just gonna Zoom.
Sure.
Somehow.
So for the auditor treasurer's report today, we are 3 weeks away from Election Day. As of this morning, 1,018 absentee ballots have been issued. Over 600 have been returned. My office is diligently working on that. There's a lot of work to that, and there's a huge voter turnout happening, which is good to see. Equipment testing continues steadily and will be ready for public accuracy testing. That event is now scheduled for October 24th. We initially had it set, I believe, for the 17th, but that got pushed back a week. Absentee voting will continue until 5 p.m. on Monday, November 4th. And there are some extra days that our office is forced and mandated to be open, which some I'm not pleased about, and I hope that they look at it next year in legislation. We have a Saturday, October 26th from 9 to 3. We have Tuesday, October 29th, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have a Saturday, November 2nd from 9 to 3. And luckily added this year, they're having us work a Sunday, November 3rd from 9 to 3, which we, all 87's county, protested because they didn't ask us how we're going to budget for overtime for this. So
A Sunday.
that's what I'm not happy about. I don't mind putting in the hours or having the staff have to work either, but when it's a Sunday, that's pushing my limits. But that's my report for today. And remember, today is tax day, so if you are a real estate person, your taxes are due today.
Okay.
Thanks.
County attorney?
Nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Okay. County coordinator?
So for the past few weeks, I've been attending meetings on affordable childcare concerns and also housing, lack of housing in the county and meetings on that. Also keeping our townships informed about where we're at on the cannabis retail licensing ordinance process of drafting that. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention is tomorrow night, we will again have another broadband presentation at 7:00 p.m. at the Browerville Community Center. And tomorrow evening will be the CTC representative, Anita Hollenhorst, and she will be giving an update on some of the work CTC has done in the county regarding broadband and future plans for broadband by CTC. So again, that's 7:00 tomorrow night at the Browerville Community Center.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners report? Commissioner Byers, you want to start?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. I attended a Zoom Property Tax 101 meeting that the AMC was online, offered last Monday, the 7th. We had candidate forum on Wednesday. It was a little overshadowed by the big meeting at Impact Technology, so it was low turnout, but we all participated. And then the 10th, I was able to jump in at the Soil and Water, and is that an annual meeting? Awards meeting and attend, so that was an eye-opener, appreciated it. I think that was it. Yeah, that's it.
Commissioner Noska?
Yeah, it was pretty much business as usual for me. We did have some meetings, I did have some meetings that were rescheduled due to time and conflicts, but one thing I did want to bring up to the rest of the commissioners is that in the near future here, the law library may be requesting to utilize some of their funds to section off a separate meeting area in the law library to offer the clients a private place where they could utilize like for Zoom meetings or to meet with counsel or things like that. So, but I think that would just be law library funds being used if it does work out. So that's maybe just coming up in the future. I don't.
Yeah, that would have to come through
Yep,
facilities.
it'll come through us. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Denny?
Nothing to report. Last week I was out with some illness and I missed all my meetings, so.
Okay, Commissioner Noska? Newman? I'm gonna go Noska again.
You go again? Wednesday, had department head meeting, policy, and yes, I was you three individuals or two individuals at the debate. Thursday, solid waste. I want to thank Commissioner Byers for covering for me at the soil and water meeting. And that's all I had. I do want to thank the Sentence to Serve crew that was out at Battle Point Park, and they cleaned up the shoreline really well. And Public Works went out and hauled away the brush for us. So I just want to thank Sentence to Serve and Public Works for their great work. So thank you.
Okay. I attended the cannabis hearing on the 1st. We had a personnel meeting, department head meeting, policy meeting. I attended the AMC district chair meeting, and I also was the soil and water meeting. And just a reminder that this coming Friday, we have the AMC fall meeting over at Fergus Falls. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn until, and what's the date? 11, is it the 3rd or
That's December.
November 5th?
I'm sure I'll move to adjourn.
So it'd be November 4th. Isn't it Monday? We meet
Yep.
Monday next month? Yeah, I think we did.
I thought we had that.
I thought we had it changed. Yes, it is the 4th. It is Monday, November 4th, to make sure everybody realizes it's going to be on a Monday.
So I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion by Newman to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion, no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned till November 4th, Monday.
Got it. I gotta go see what's going on.
The work session started? Okay. We ready? We'll get the work session started and we will start with the affordable housing care discussion.
Childcare discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a few meetings in the last week or two about our countywide childcare shortfalling. The fact that we just don't have enough spots for all the children in our county to get childcare. And so I asked two of the leaders who've been helping us try to navigate these waters to talk today. I got Luann from the council or the city and Melissa from TCDC. And just wanted to say that after meeting with TCDC last week and then running up to Long Prairie and going to the city council meeting, there is, I'm addressing the commissioners here, there is, not say consensus, but there is a wish for this to somehow get off the ground. So we're applying for some grants that I understand are kind of queued up with maybe just a few things missing from them. But I also want to have them give you enough information that says whether we can, make a decision on this in the coming weeks. Or is this something that, so we want to make good decisions, but we want to make informed decisions. We want to have them give us everything they know and what we can do as a county, what we can do to carry the water here. So would you two please step up and help describe the situation and then what you'd like to see from
You might have to turn your mics on.
Okay. Okay, so I'm with the Economic Development, Long Prairie City, and we just had a childcare roundtable where Barb and Bob were at that event, and we've come up with the idea of the pod system. It's called something else right now, but it's 6 apartments, 6 complexes that would be individual childcares. And we didn't just come up with this idea. Morris has it, St. Gabriel's in Little Falls, Hill, Minnesota, Sandstone, and there was one other, New Ulm. And there was a conference a day before the childcare roundtable, and I went to that. And Morris has the one that we are actually following or would like to follow. And 6 pods. $1.2 million. And we have the construction plans. And we also have people that would want to move in to those pods as childcare providers. The childcare center system is very difficult. As you probably all know, Trinity Learning Center closed. And that was a center, and they had staffing issues. And it seems to be a common theme in Duluth. They lost 3 centers, and we lost 1 center. And a center like Alexandria, I've called them and asked them, and their budget is they either make $0 or maybe minus 2% on their childcare. And every year they fundraise for it. So centers are difficult, whereas providers, they would lease this building, the separate pods, and we have to decide on lease agreements. But Morris has been so kind as to share their application process, their leasing process. So it's something that we could fall right into. And she said we can dial her number anytime. But what I was going to go back to, I know there was a question on the board about would we fill these slots? Well, Morris has filled them and is building or is planning for another pod care system. And so I called Alyssa Erdrich from Sourcewell, who does your licensing for childcare here. And I also called Michelle Mahoney, who's with Wayfinder and Parent Aware. And both of them said there would be no problem finding people to apply for that. Right now, at the moment, she has 4 that could apply right away. And so there's no problem there. Both of them said, we'll write a support letter to you all saying that that would not be an issue.
So, I had it on and then I shut it off, of course. So with that, there's been a lot of discussion. Like Lou said, there's a few of you have been a little bit deeper in the discussions or at some of the roundtables. So the highest need in Todd County is seated in Long Prairie. And the need within Long Prairie actually fits the requirements of this grant. And so when we're talking where should this system be based on this grant application, based on where the greatest need is, it is in the Long Prairie area. And that's mostly based on local residents as well as those who come into Long Prairie for working. So, they'll bring children with them to fill these slots as well. Not that we need additional, but, there's also additional demand that maybe isn't even recognized just because of the county lines or, city lines and whatnot. So this application, Lou and I have already started it. Obviously, our biggest struggle is who is the applicant of it. The project is the same no matter who picks it up and says, you know what, this is important to us and we can make this happen. And then the additional piece is the match. The project is more than what the grant is allowed. The maximum is $600,000 for the type of project. It would be less if it was a single space. In this case, it's 6 spaces. We can get up to $600,000 through the state child care grant. With that, we need to raise additional dollars. There are others interested in participating. To what level, they haven't alluded to, but they really want to. What we've heard feedback is either city or county being the applicant, how much is city or county putting in, and how, they're more than half, some of them I think want to do a gap filler too. So there hasn't been any formal commitments, which is something that is critical to saying we are shovel ready. We have the site, we have the project, we have the ability to get the builder and to get the project done as long as we have an additional $600,000. But with that, that doesn't mean that. So one of the requests, I guess, one of the things we've talked about here is Todd County being the applicant has the capacity, way better capacity, at least as far as, administration, the ability to make sure it's done properly. And then also the ability to acquire additional funding for the project through outside applicants. So if there is additional grant opportunities, a for-profit or even my nonprofit as a Todd County Development Corp. Would not necessarily be looked at as a qualified candidate to host that many dollars as a single employee organization. So the nonprofit could have potentially considered it. However, we definitely wouldn't be able to show the capacity. The other piece is that $600,000. I think what we're requesting is a commitment that basically if whatever isn't raised could be raised, like that if approved, which is again, an if, that there's a commitment from the county and the community that in the end, we will make sure that those funds are there. And that could be through a bonding process. That could be through a budget line item. That could be however it would be. It would be in the 25 budget period, so it wouldn't be a 24. And then of course, as the applicant that makes you the owner, then then there is that ongoing maintenance, which of course, just like any other project, we need to keep it affordable, but for the childcare providers to make it feasible, which is also one of the biggest struggles for childcare providers is to be able to afford to do childcare. So we do have to have that side to it. But
you know, there are, you know, varying different levels throughout all of the different examples that Lou had mentioned for different levels of rent that are charged. And that's essentially, the rent would be what would be expected to maintain the space.
Okay, I guess I got a few questions.
Yes.
Right now, you guys are in Hertford daycare today or tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, so how long would it take a building like this to be put up, and what are you going to do in between
So the
now
timeline,
and then?
if we apply for this is, I'm sorry, it's October 31st is the deadline
Right.
for the $600,000. We were hoping for December. That's what Rick had said in May, and then we found out that it would be earlier. Then in November, we would be granted the 600,000, and by spring, we would start the building, and by January 2026, we would hope to have the grand opening.
Okay, so you're 2 years out
Yes.
with the pod system, no matter what. What are you going to do for daycare in between that time?
Good question.
You know,
It's the same thing that's been going on this entire, you know, what you guys started the process at the same time as Staples. We actually, when I was in Staples, jointly put in the application to the Initiative Foundation to do the planning process. It's through First Children's Finance, there was 2 opportunities. We went with the one through the Initiative Foundation, got a understanding of the need in both areas as well as the overall county. And then this is the implementation of that, but that was all the way back in 2019.
That was before COVID, and then when COVID came, I mean, you've all heard, then we gave the money to job care providers, but it was just to keep them afloat as opposed to gaining more slots.
So there are opportunities, you know, for existing providers to, that, you know, we don't intend, one, I think, in between, there would be a fundraising initiative, you know, offset that. So there, you know, there would be, it's not necessarily like, hey, can you write a check? You know, it's if we can't get to that amount, the county would be willing to do a line item. Now, hopefully, the ask would be that you would commit to that 600, you know, that total project to finish the project cost, with the idea that the expectation would be, it would be less than that, you know, based upon fundraising.
then the other interesting situation is, we have already passed part of our budget. We can't demand more going into our budget for 2025. So then I would look at Denise and say, where would we get 600,000 from? Because it's already been budgeted for 2025.
Right, you've already set your preliminary budget.
Yeah.
So, and our ARPA funds are already dedicated. I think we're down to maybe 200,000 of that, but that's already been earmarked tentatively. It's nothing formal.
Yeah, because all the ARPA dollars have to be spent or
Committed.
by the 31st, yeah. So you're
Yeah,
kind of in the end of that.
Morris was county funds, and it was from the ARPA.
Yeah, we put roofs on our buildings that were leaking. Jackie?
Chair, where's the city on this?
So the city,
I know you're with the economic with the city, but
Right.
where's Brenda,
Candace. So we went to city council and we asked for the land over at the industrial park, Southwest Industrial Park, across from the new housing complex. There are 2 plots or lots that they would possibly or most likely donate to us. And one would be for a playground, a city playground, and one would be for the pod system. But they're in the situation that, well, they'll call a special meeting, but they want to know what the county is going to do.
So if the county is the applicant, just saying, would their in-kind meet the in-kind if the county is the applicant?
Yeah, well, It's for $600,000, and of course, we're supposed to match with $600,000, whether it be in kind or otherwise. But the project is $1.2 million for the actual building. So we would get $600,000, and the $600,000 could be in kind, could be $300,000 from the county, and then $200,000. I'm not doing the math.
Jackie, does the in-kind have to come from the applicant?
Correct.
Or does it have,
So which
can
would
it
make
be
sense for me to
whoever
have it
commits
be
those
at the
funds?
city versus the county, because
Right.
they would be doing the in-kind if it would be with the land acquisition.
I
In
don't,
my, I mean, just something
As
that
I
I
understand
just
it,
was thinking.
it isn't mandatory. And actually, there isn't even a required match for this grant for Todd County or Long Prairie. And that is because there's extra stipulations within it that says you are not required to match if you meet these guidelines. At least one of these 5, I think
and we
it was
have,
4.
and we have 3 of them.
And we matched 3 of them
With 3 of them.
with justifications on each.
Low income, diversity.
Diversity, and then we're in the tract of a lack of childcare that was identified at the state level. So technically, there isn't a requirement of matching funds for the grant itself, but we have to have the ability to tell them that if you allocate us $600,000, we will have we'll have the rest of the project funding available. And that's the that's the struggle right now, is we can't promise that there isn't a full commitment from any place that would fill. Even if we raised $400,000, we still wouldn't be able to say we have the full funding.
Yeah.
There's no doubt there's a need, 100%, right? We all know that. But how much fundraising has the county ever done, Denise?
Well, I guess.
And the other thing, Jackie, is anytime we've built, we've always put money away for a building project so that we've had the funds. And we've been doing this with our county garage, you know.
Can we
public works
fundraise? I
building.
know you keep saying that, so I've never heard of a county fundraising for any events.
I don't think so.
I don't think the county themselves can,
Okay.
but the project can.
So then who would be the project lead if it was the county? I mean, who would the responsibility of the project fall under as county?
I'm thinking the 2 of us, Long Prairie EDA and TCDC.
Yeah, I mean, that's who's been leading it, so this whole project, there is, again, it started in that 2019 timeframe. There has been a long-term committed group working on these projects. Honestly, the turnaround time isn't ideal for any of us.
It's terrible.
The anticipation was that they would have had this application out a long time ago if they were going to have it due October 31st. They got it out at the end of September.
6 weeks ahead of time, yeah.
And so then it became a lot of scurry, and the anticipation was it was going to be due in December, like the last round was. And so this quick turnaround really kind of stumped a lot of people across the state. So this isn't ideal for anyone, I agree. The other problem is if we wait another year, which is definitely something we can do, it goes back to that, what do we do in the meantime then? And so that just pushes it out another, year and a half or 2 years. And then this is also potentially for Todd County at least, a potential project that could be duplicated throughout the different cities in the county that need the childcare support, so there's.
We've already received inquiries from Osakis.
Yeah, Osakis, I'm going to Osakis on the 28th for their board meeting, or their EDA board meeting, to talk to them about their childcare issues and what can be done, and kind of get an idea of where they're at as well. And also, of course, I worked on it in Staples. There's still a huge need up there. And so, I mean, it's definitely a project that could be duplicated, and it's something that we've seen success in other places in the state.
And the county, even though they did the whole project for the pod system, they asked businesses to sponsor. And they didn't get much the first time, but now they're doing their second round. And a company already thought it was so successful as donating $250,000. So I think once we find out that it's successful, there'll be more coming.
And then also the need, I mean, as one of the largest employers in Todd County is Todd County as well. And, you know, it'd be interesting, and I'm sure there's a major need. We've kind of had conversations, you know, in different meetings or with different individuals that, not even specific to this project, just more generalized, that, you know, there's county employees who struggle to find childcare, to be able to get to work, to be able to work, you know, additional hours or less hours or whatever it may be, because they need to accommodate their childcare setup or not have childcare. With Trinity closing, you know, that pushed an additional huge immediate demand onto the community, which was unexpected and also sudden and not ideal. But, you know, it's certainly not something that is being asked to only consider Long Prairie as an option. It is something that we're looking at least in my discussions with a couple commissioners, my discussions with other communities, is how could this be duplicated to the right size for each of those communities.
I think Lou was referencing Stevens County, and Stevens County has the pods and used their ARPA dollars last year to build that building, and they're the landlord now of that building. And in talking to the administrator, they are also applying for this same grant to duplicate because of the success. And as you said, this time around, they have more businesses now, after seeing the success, that are committing dollars for the match. So they will actually be duplicating, hoping to get the same grant funds too, because of the success that they have seen with their pods.
Sounds like
So.
it's gonna be a competitive.
It is a
will be
competitive grant
grant.
application.
Yes, but due to
My
the fact,
question, will the state be coming out with more or better funding in the future?
It's a budget season, but we also know what the forecast is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
My question would be a lot more in-depth, not that I'm trying to be the devil's
No,
advocate,
but,
but
yeah.
if this is the county-owned building, is it our asset? Is our liability? Who becomes the landlord? Who are you going to assign at the county to do all of this? There's a lot more that I think that needs to go in a roundtable discussion if the county is going to be the applicant, because there's a lot more in detail that we need to gather, and I'll say the word fiscally, financially responsible.
Yeah.
So
That
Madam
goes
Chair,
with this.
then that goes to, do we have to put it out on state bid? If it's a county project, okay?
Absolutely.
So that's gonna add to the cost compared to a private sector building it.
I
You
think
go
it's a
with the
great
state,
idea, I'm not saying.
It adds up.
But there's just a lot more to it, and I did reach out to Stevens County and visit it, and they did use their ARPA dollars, and they are the landlord. Now, moving forward, if this is something Todd County wants to do, I definitely will be in contact and going down there and visiting with the auditor from that county on how this works out for audit purpose. Because like I said, now I've got to track this as an asset and a liability, and it gets to be more. And then who becomes the liable person that makes the decisions on a
Who
moment's
comes
notice
in?
when you're a landlord?
Yeah, who comes in and
Right.
leases it, who doesn't go lease it? You know, there's
There's so
lot
much
of
to it.
So Lou and Melissa, if the county isn't interested, is the city willing to step up?
no, because I mean, they're in a state of,
Their administration
in
issues.
administration issues. They have one administrator and, yeah, two at the front desk, and, yeah.
They don't have that capacity with the lack of workforce that they have within their building.
So Madam Chair, I do have a question. Why are people getting out of daycare? Why are they getting out? What is the driver? Is it the regulations? I know there's some private ones that the regulations are getting so damn stupid that they said enough's enough. I just want to get out of it.
That is a major, that's one of them. That's a huge part, right? And there's got to be a balance, right? So we also don't want children unsafe or in an unsafe environment. But at the same time, it is driving people out because there's so much that they have to do. And they're not paid enough to be able to justify the wear and tear on their homes and all of the regulations and all the trainings and the long hours, you know, because they're not getting paid overtime, they're not getting, you know, holidays off necessarily, right? And the way they have it structured with, I want to say you can have up to 12, and that's in your best case scenario for an individual. And if you were to hire a staff person, you can only have 2 more. So it doesn't really justify that either. So there's that, but I think it comes down to the pay, the hours, and the regulations that just keep adding, and it just doesn't seem worth it anymore for them.
And if Todd County becomes the applicant, then the other issue the board would have to look at, because you brought up staffing, who are you going to assign all these duties to? Like you're saying, they don't want wear and tear in their home. Now we have wear and tear in a pod. So is that our facility crew going over there to fix water troubles, to fix issues that may arise that somebody punched a hole in the wall? I mean, I'm just going down the line of things that could happen. And we also have to keep in mind that Todd County as an applicant is Todd County. Economic development boards, we work together as great, but they're agencies. They're not Todd County. They are agencies when it comes to the fiscal world as well.
And we
Great partners to collaborate, but two different entities.
Yeah, we haven't asked the city for we didn't want to push too far at the last minute, but we were going to ask if they could do the, snow plowing and the mowing around that area, because they've been doing that for how many years?
So my other question would be, would this be a first come, first serve? So if you got employees from Central Care Hospital, or, you got the school.
It would be an application.
You have county employees, the same thing. They're all looking for daycare, all these, and then you have the packing plant, okay? And the packing plant puts up an apartment complex right across the street in Industrial Park, okay? Is this first come, first serve, or how does it work?
This is 100% first come, first serve. So again, Denise, you are exactly right about kind of what, and a lot of that stuff would need to be worked out now, is whether or not, I have no doubt that those things can be, but it's whether or not the county is willing to take on that overarching piece of it,
Absolutely.
Can there be agreements and all those things worked out in the next few months? Absolutely. And then that would be about the time we'd find out if we even had something to work out, But as far as, the responsibility to the providers, so the providers are renters. If they punch a hole in the wall, they're responsible for fixing that. They're responsible for, maybe if the refrigerator goes out, and it all depends on how you write up the lease, that could be the county or the owner's responsibility, or the landlord, whoever is going to maintain this property. But just like anywhere else, they would have to put a deposit down, for wear and tear, right? If the carpet needs to be replaced, if whatever happens, just like renting a house. And then as far as like, their day-to-day stuff, that's their business operation. That's not the county's business operation. It's a landlord-tenant situation. They're responsible for operating their business. If they don't do a good job and they go out of business, then somebody else can rent that unit. That's kind of how the responsibility from the county's perspective would be, whatever you're doing in there isn't our liability, that is you as a business. Now, the first come, first served. So I was asked this question by several. I'm looking around. I think there was somebody at the county, and then Jackie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I brought up, I just
had to get my brain to
Right.
focus.
One of my concerns I had brought up too was if if Todd County's the landlord, is there anything that says then that our employees in some way have access first into that facility?
And my response to her, just like it would be to Long Prairie Packing, and just like to anyone else, is, again, those are private businesses. Unless the county wanted to hire somebody to operate a childcare for the county, those slots need to be paid for. So if you worked out a deal with an individual provider, potentially, but they only have that 12 slots. This is this is the in-home provider scenario. So it eliminates a lot of those even larger expenses and even more cost and requirements and regulations for a center base. So somebody could work out a deal with their individual provider that they want to. you wouldn't be able to dictate that necessarily as a county or as an owner. But I would assume the only way to do a good business, and the only thing I would expect them to say is those slots need to be paid for. If you want to save 5, 10 slots for your organization, that's great. But those have to be paid for no matter what, because I could fill those in a heartbeat if you didn't have somebody in there for them, you know?
I have a question, not to interrupt you, but I'm kind of getting lost here, and just for my brain. So you have 6 pods, and you're saying you already have people that want to come in and run those 6 pods,
Yep, rent them.
but they don't want to do it out of their house.
Well, some of them they cannot.
They cannot, because of the space, there are space requirements in the
size.
house, there's those requirements that Randy was talking about. And if you live in an apartment, you cannot have a
So
childcare
they're willing to pay the rent
Yes.
to have this space.
Rather than buy a house or a new space and renovate
Lost
that.
there, I'm like, you just got done
So-
saying that they don't want to do it in their home
And we should,
anymore.
right, no, it's not that they,
Okay.
and this, they wouldn't even qualify for the funding here. They want to know that it's new slots, new providers coming in, or, you know, new access, as opposed to just transitioning access from one place to another place. In this case, you know, the reason why the playground is important, you know, the city park, is because as part of the requirements through the state with all of their regulations, they would require a playground play system, commercial, you know, quality, to be in the backyard of every single pod. And so those would have to be put in there as well.
With fences.
With
yeah,
fences on
around.
each of them, because
So it would be cost efficient if we had a
as a
city park.
private childcare provider, you cannot mix your kids. And so you can't have like one provider be like, oh, hey, guess what? I'm gonna run down to the gas station or the grocery store, and then, hey, will you come watch my kids? Or I'm just gonna merge these other 12 kids into yours, and now we have 24 kids in here and one provider watching. That's what they don't want to happen. They don't want all the kids to go out. They're not supposed to be. They're intended to be individualized. But if you have a playground, a public
1,500
park,
feet, yeah.
within 1,500 feet of your childcare, you can utilize that as your play system. So by doing that, we cut the cost dramatically.
For
They
the
would each have fencing, but for the project itself.
Melissa, can I, on a little bit different subject,
Yeah.
what's the payback on these? I mean, you figured out what it's going to cost, how many years, and what's the payback?
It is, what did we tell the state? It is $8,333 per slot. But I guess I don't have the economic, you know, that ripple effect of it. I don't know if you've ever received that or if you heard that from Stevens County, but it'd be pretty easy to find out. I'm sure First Children's Finance has a ripple effect for every childcare slot that is added that, you know, I mean, the payback out loud without dollars.
I'm guessing it's a lengthy payback, but the payback becomes when you know, as an indirect payback, it is that you're now gonna be able to retain professionals in your community. They're gonna build houses, hopefully, and you're gonna hopefully attract an employer who needs daycare. But I get what you're saying too,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the
here's your
taxpayer
cost.
out there wants to
Right.
know, okay, if we're investing his money,
Yeah.
Well, and
how are we investing
And I
it,
don't-
and what's,
I
you
can't
know,
imagine Stevens County has got I mean, they're only in it, what, a year now?
yeah.
So it's not like they're gonna have, and their first couple of years are somewhat, the business owners pay a lower rent fee.
That's correct,
So
yeah.
that they're able to, you know, make some money and be successful and put the furniture and stuff they need in there and whatever, all the cost of operation, because startup costs are usually higher, so.
And one of the things Stevens did too is they also had funds set aside to help current childcare providers at the same time to try to meet the immediate need of daycare shortage. So it was kind of a combined effort. They went after the grant for the pods, but they were also putting money into the current providers to help them either make changes to their programs or
improve their properties so
improve
that
their
they can have
properties.
additional children. But
Yeah, they added
I'm really
54,000.
wondering if at AMC, they're not going to have something on these pods, either at the fall meeting or else in the cities at the December meeting, because there's a lot of counties asking a lot of questions on this. But that doesn't help you because your funding is so close to
And we just
the
don't want to,
time.
it's not that we don't want to
end.
wait, but we
If
we could jump in on this opportunity, it would be great. If we can't get it figured out, we can always come, spend the year trying to figure it out and come back next year. It just pushes, that access out even further. And so we're capable and willing and able to get the grant submitted in time. Again, the turnaround time to bring it up to everybody was real quick, but the idea of submitting it was not. Last year, I believe there was, we had talked briefly about that 200,000 of ARPA dollars potentially going towards this. And then it was, there isn't, it's been reallocated, we don't know, so that was one of the things that we were trying to figure out too is.
Yeah, I mean, we're 16 days out. I mean, I will tell you this, that, from my district and the city, I mean, I know that we can, we're in agreement on this need. And I think it's going to be something that if it happens, when it happens, it'll be a successful model that can be duplicated in North Todd County, potentially South Todd County. And the sense I get is, we'd like to plan this, fund it without, not knowing where it's coming from.
Even the timeline of the commissioner meetings, we don't meet again until November.
Right.
So nothing can be decided or even,
I did a little groundwork with Denise on this last week, and I mean, the one thing that's, they're, with elections going on, it's a heck of a deal right now. I mean, they got people, I'm surprised how many people are down there every day, early voting and things like that. And at the forum, I think, it was at the candidate meeting, we talked about this too.
Yeah.
And, there were some people in that day that were, I thought, a little negative on it. We need to keep this moving forward. Now, moving forward may not mean on October 31st of 2024, we have a landlord decision or applicant decision, but, and I'm not going to stand up here and grandstand, but I will say that I will push and help try to make this a successful program if we get all the details, we need to make a good decision, so.
I know is it the 24th, Jackie, that we're going to stay
For the summit,
For the
yes,
summit,
and
for the daycare summit.
at Central Lakes College. And I think also Commissioner Byers is signed up as well as you are. I'm going. Are you going, Melissa? And any commissioner is welcome to go. It's from 9 to 3, October 24th.
I just have one other question, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Is Sourcewell providing services to Douglas County as far as daycare?
As far as their licensing programming,
Exactly.
I am not 100% sure.
Do a contract licensor like Alyssa does for us, similar for those in-home licenses.
They are.
Yeah.
Douglas is contracted with them.
What counties are contracted with Sourcewell?
Oh, gosh, there is.
Is Wadena?
Region 5, and then I think Ottertail, Douglas.
I don't know either.
Western, a little bit of,
All of Region 5 is Jackie?
all of Region 5.
All Region 5, yes.
And then there's some, like I said, Ottertail and Douglas. I think Stevens, because I've seen, not charity, but Liberty on the call. So I think it's Stevens, Ottertail, and Douglas. I know it's them.
It says, okay, I'm just pulling up their site. Sourcewell partners with Becker, Cass, Crow Wing, Douglas, Morrison, Stevens, Todd, and Wadena to offer family child care licensing services.
And that, again, is for in-home providers, not child care centers.
I just have one question, Madam Chair. If this doesn't go through before the 31st, the Trinity closed because of staffing issues, right? Or is there any way we can pick up a lease or anything to get something?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
They've decided, yeah,
Okay.
October 21st. They not only had the staffing issues, well, due to they could not hire people full-time.
Okay.
And they didn't have benefits. And $16 to $18 an hour, and a living wage is not a living wage. And So that was one of the major issues. And it's a bigger problem that legislation. It would be nice if we had the government helping to sustain the childcare centers with benefits. I don't know how that would work, but like the farmers, they get funding if their crops fail, that kind of thing. Yeah, but
It does sound like, I think there were 42 TLC families that were, or kids that were
42
affected.
yeah.
43, and I think there's 15 or less that are yet to be placed. I know
yeah,
that
and I mean,
St.
if it would
Mary's-
have been last year, you would have had the issue of your Health and Human Service person, Catherine McAdance. She had children or a child there, so she would not have been able to work, or she would have been looking for childcare. So. And we received calls from local businesses. ECP, the HR person there, she lost her daycare, an infant, and it's impossible to find a place for infants these days.
Yeah.
And this would provide 12 infants spots,
I know,
possibly.
I mentioned too, my daughter's co-worker ended up losing her in-house daycare, and in turn, those people ended up becoming her nannies and went into her home instead. And it was better for both parties.
Right,
Yeah.
in that scenario, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, some people, they would do it because they would want to lease these pods because they want to take it out of their home. And, you know, not live where they work and where the kids are, and not even necessarily just the wear and tear, but just do I have to have, I don't have small children anymore, do I have to have these toys? I mean, my aunt did childcare for ever and ever and ever, but she had like 7 kids, so she's crazy already. But she you know, as soon as her daughters took over, you know, they moved it out of the home into a rental. They're from Jamestown, North Dakota. I don't know what all their regulations, requirements are. It still sounds like it's kind of crazy. I just talked to my cousin this weekend about it. And she did move it back into her home, but she bought a new home, you know, so it was a different
I know,
structure, but-
Jackie, I think it was last year at the spring AMC when you brought out all the regulations and you told us that we're going to start running into these problems. So it's something that, yeah, the state
Yeah.
has been changing.
So, I mean, we're willing to, you know, stay up all night and do this application. And we have been working hard on it. And there's, unfortunately, the playground application is due on October 25th too. So, but it's only a 2-page application. So, and I think we could get a lot of fundraising funds from Rotary and Lions, et cetera.
For the playground.
For the playground, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for every board member here. I mean, I'm the one who brought this to the work session and stuff, and because I'm going to champion it. You know, from your time prioritization standpoint, my hunch is that you look out a little, you know, like you just said, Melissa, maybe it's a next time project, you know? Am I missing the boat here? Because we have,
It might be, have to be.
I mean, I know we
Just
could
be-
call special sessions, but I think there's a lot of questions that everybody, I'm not sure.
I think more on the funding and the money and how we would manage it, managing of the building. There's a lot into a project like this.
Would
I
there
think-
be, if we do not do this project, then we're pushing it out 3 years. We still have the issue of what to do with childcare. And so is there going to be a fund of $300,000 to $400,000 where we could do something for our local providers and support them in some way, shape, or form? But that would also have to be administered. You'd have to have someone, you know, figuring out what do we give to who in order to keep them going. Come up with a plan. This would be self-contained. We have the licensors, everything.
Commissioners?
No.
don't know if I want to do it.
Hey, I got a question. Has the city of Long Prairie ever looked at passing a half a cent sales tax?
I didn't,
That's good.
So,
well, I mean, I brought this up.
Bob and I had a discussion last week on that, and I just said, that's a possibility. We did it here for the transportation tax. I wish Lauren was
Right.
still here. Again, like I told Mr. Byers, I said, it's not that it can't be done, it's somebody needs to do the legwork on it, because that all runs through the state, and we report to the state, they report to us, and every month we get a report of the money that was spent throughout the county.
Right.
But it takes public hearings.
Yeah, that
and it
takes-
takes,
So
I don't want to say an act of Congress, but you do have to go through.
that's a
the
city.
state.
It is actually,
city,
almost.
Not us. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could do either way. So there was another idea, sorry to jump in, but another, thought would be for, and I don't know, and Denise, this is just kind of off the top of the head, because this isn't my side of the world, but, could the county do that half a cent throughout the county and put it in a fund for, and I say these critical projects, and I focus my brain on the housing and childcare initiatives for X amount of time, so I think they have to have an end date, right? If I remember right. Like I think the city, when they did the one for the community center, has to have some sort of end date, and it has to be directed at a very specific thing, which, I mean, Long Prairie could go ahead and, choose to go down that road as well. Or could the county do it and then determine, where those dollars go if they're for capital projects that hit their critical needs within the county. That, of course, isn't going to happen at the end of this month, but that's just a long-term, thought in my brain on how we could kind of meet some of these demands.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's come pretty apparent in my first year here is that there's, nobody wants their taxes raised, but everybody wants the services.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Todd County to, be great again, or what do you want to call it? I'm just, and if you get a city and a county working together, okay, there's in kind, there's what can kind, but it's the deal also is there's a process in place, like Denise and I talked about at length yesterday, or last week, and after leaving the TCDC meeting and the city council meeting, I was kind of fired up, and then after the canon fired up, like, hey, but the process has to be followed, and that's kind of the bad story for our team here right now today. But, if, again, our taxpayers want stuff to make this a great county, there's gonna be a cost, and whether it be a liquor tax, a sales tax, a usage tax, or whatever, nobody wants to hear that word, but, if we don't fund ourselves besides getting government money, we're just, we're on the, you know what I'm trying to say? We're relying upon them, and then we got to follow their rules and regulations, which may or may not apply to us. We may not want to follow those regulations, so. Figure a way to fund this ourselves would be the best way in my mind, so. I know that's taking up a lot of time, so.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to move on. I think as a board, we're open,
For
I
next
know
year,
we
yeah.
have timeframes that we have to meet and things that we have to jump through in order to proceed with this. It's not just a simple yes, no.
Right.
As I think we expressed this morning. Not that we don't appreciate your project or understand the importance of it. It's just the steps we have to go through as a county. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I completely understand that, I know that
Yeah, you
there's, I mean, I understand the voting and the need to, have everybody on board. It is positive, one of the big positives. Is to me that you're seeing the agreement about the importance, and we're seeing the willingness to come together, I come up with solutions, and if it's a 26 application, that's just kind of how it falls. I know you're not happy, Lou. But she's more emotionally attached, but that doesn't change, there could be other opportunities that we can follow up on for more, for countywide, at least from my perspective on a countywide level. Like I said, I was reaching.
Melissa, the other thing that would be really good to know is what is the city putting in as in-kind, and what is the exact dollar amount you're asking for the county? I
Right.
mean, is it the whole 600, or is it that in-kind minus, you know, the smaller that we can get that
Yes,
lump sum, the better off we are.
Yes.
And if we can combine that. The other problem, and as I listen here, is should the county be landlords? Should the city be landlords with a saying, well, the county will donate this much money for this project, but not wanting to be a landlord? And those are the questions that we really gotta answer before we can move on. And right now,
Absolutely.
we don't have an answer to them. I don't think
And-
so.
and it doesn't sound like it's very comfortable to come up with an answer, you know, I mean, I know it's been like on minds, you know,
Yeah.
but ultimately, it still doesn't sound like anybody's quite with, you know, the discussions and on the back end, you know, to say yes or no, that they do feel overall comfortable and,
And government moves slow. I hate to tell you this.
I know it, that's why I'm a 501c3, which moves
Well, this is-
slightly faster.
This is the most longest work session topic I've had since I've been here.
Yeah.
Honestly, got truth, the time, so it's been on our, like you said, it's been on our minds, but it hasn't been discussed, because Denise, you know, we need finance, we need, you know, Lou's district and Tim, everybody's district's thoughts patterns. From this meeting, there should be some framework, at least some to-do things that you want us to help with. Let's line item out and then start working on them, because if we don't, you know, like Barb says, it takes a process, takes a little time. So if we let it stop now, we won't make 2026.
We won't be ready in a
So,
year either.
you know,
Right,
it's
so
just,
I 100%
you
agree.
got people are gonna help you carry the water, and we'll listen and we'll do so. Thanks for everything. It's been eye-opening, good.
Yeah.
I think two things is we continue to really keep an eye out for grants because there's funding out there. But the other thing is maybe we have discussions with our legislators in the local area.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to really let them know about this pod project and where we sit with that.
I think there's some potential opportunity on the federal side. I've had conversations with Representative Weiner. I plan to bring it up to, is it this week, this Thursday, is the conversation with legislators up in Medina. I think everybody was invited to that, hopefully. Be something to kind of go there, that we share the same legislators, so to push it to them. And potentially, we can get some funding on the side, you know, we can put in applications into Sourcewell. And we can carry on these conversations with the county, the city, for the next application, and work out all of those questions and details as we go, and get it all ready. I don't see the application changing a whole lot. Maybe they'll give you more than a few days, but I don't see the application changing a whole lot from one year to the next, just maybe slightly on their priorities, or, you know, what it may be, but, or point system. In the meantime, just kind of an FYI still on the topic, and I will stop talking then if you'd like. There's the RCC IP, which the county wouldn't be asked to apply for. It'd be a 501c3 application, or city individuals, which to go through that same planning process or similar planning process as Long Prairie and the city of Staples went through. They went through the shortened version of it. At those two levels, but, you know, this application is out there. It is due really quick turnaround, but it's something that Osakis specifically is interested in. And when it first came out, I did ask everybody if they were interested, and Osakis is the one that reached out. So that could be something that's happening as well, countywide, you know, for childcare.
And I would say, I'm going to piggyback to what Bob said. This is the most conversation we've had on it, and there might have been little roundtable discussions and prior COVID discussions, but I think you guys as a unity should come before work sessions regularly to update us, to see where the path is, see where we can keep collaborating together. Because if we don't hear it as a full group here, the board doesn't hear it.
Well, we
don't know.
We thought it was happening because Chris was at every meeting with us.
And she was very involved before I mean, that was before I came on, but.
Yeah, that was before Jackie. That been
Yeah.
at least 6-7 months, yeah.
And kudos to Jackie. Jackie has been very efficient, effective, and called and met with us on several occasions. Thanks.
I wish I had money, Lou. Wish I could write you a check for
Everybody's
that.
problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you guys are comfortable with that, we would love to come on a regular, if it's not every work for it meeting.
But I mean, at least even monthly, because it's just really good when these groups come back and update us. Because even for my minute taking, I know for the boards, you know, just knowledge to just keep refreshing.
Right, because you're not in it every day.
Right, we're not at those little round table discussions that you guys have, which is great collaboration, but yeah.
I'm just worried about people coming back to us now.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you very
you.
much for coming.
I don't think we know about that. Yeah, 'cause I don't think any of us got that.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Good morning.
Just a quick update on our solid waste project update. Starting out with the structural side of things. Things are moving right along. The office scale house is completely enclosed and partitioned off. Within the next 2 weeks, we will be installing HVAC systems. Electrical will be installed, so then they will start working on the sheet rocking and that type of thing. As far as the transfer station building goes, they're on the last segment of the push walls, which is pretty substantial labor-wise. Currently, this week, they are working on backfilling and doing all the subgrade reinforcement along the transfer station. So we're excited about that because we currently still have no heat in our facility. So we're looking to have that done within the next couple of weeks and get the gas line buried in once that material is moved. So that is moving right along really well. Basically, within the next 2 weeks, the windows will be coming, the doors for the transfer station scale house will be installed. They're going to start siding it, doing the roofing, so that's moving along really well. All the girders, all the steel for the transfer station building is on the grounds, so they're waiting for a crane to start coming in that. They're waiting for some small hardware systems to be installing that. So you'll see a lot of improvements moving within the next 2 to 3 weeks on that. So all looks pretty well. Just with our last update, we are still looking at on schedule. We're looking at a possible grand opening of sometime in July for completion. Questions?
Budget-wise, how are we coming?
Really good. Actually, things are working out. Our contingencies, we shared that with Commissioner Newman when he was at the Solid Waste Committee. Our expenses are right on target, are actually coming in a little under, so things are rolling right along. I don't really foresee anything that's right now that we're running into, so
Okay.
all looks good.
And then what we approved this morning about the east side of ditching,
Yep.
okay, so what happened there?
Basically, that was an ongoing problem that was already existing. Basically, all the drainage from where the recycling area is, that was already draining into that loading dock area where the semis back into. At one time, there was a drain field in that loading dock, and during the construction now, we actually found the old drain field tank, which is no longer operational, and that was always a problem. It's just that once we redid the west access road to the compost facility, we just created a lot bigger footprint for that drainage to come down the hill. So we just got to correct that. And it's something that we had to do anyway, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions?
Yes, it was the step supervisor that come in and visited with us, right?
Yeah, Amy, forget what her last name is for the step.
Last Thursday.
Yep, she's the lead foreman for them. Yep.
Very, very positive comments on how Mike has stepped up and made the working environment 100% better. She was really excited about it, and that was
Yeah.
really good for me to hear that, yeah.
Good.
It's enjoyable
I
working
know a
conditions
few
out there.
years back, they were having heater problems and it was cold and not a very good work condition.
Yeah, one thing that we talked a little bit on our safety, our committee meetings is when we really dug into our recycling and our commodities exchange, operationally, I really dug into it because that was a big problem for us. We were taking in a lot of out-of-county product and actually we were losing money on that process and just working these people and not really gaining anything. So we're fully operational now since I've revamped that program. And I think when we used our state score reports. I think I shared this before. The county had been running at about a 16% contamination rate on our recycles that we sell. So what that does for us is it costs us money also, but we had a hard time selling our commodities because they were so contaminated. Last year when we did our score report, we are down to about 6% only on our contamination rate. So right now we're looking really good. I actually have vendors calling us to buy our products because they know it's clean. So not only that, we've gotten better revenue off on our commodities as we sell it.
Okay, good, good. Commissioners, any questions?
No. Awesome.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. We have a step update?
To do their annual update. To follow will be the contract. So
Okay, the
we
next
like to
meeting
do
then?
that. And then I think at the next work session, we'll have SEP in Northern Pines.
Oh, okay.
So we
good.
we like to plan those ahead of time before the contract comes in, so you're feeling comfortable when the contract rolls around to sign it, so.
Okay.
Corey couldn't make it today, so we're gonna hand it over, and I don't even know your name.
Samantha.
Samantha. Thank you for
So,
coming.
Thank you. I'm Samantha Johnson, actually Samantha Steffen. I work at STEP. I've been there for 9 years. I'm the administrative assistant. So STEP serves 73 clients right now. 2 clients are served in community-based jobs. We've been focused on living skills and access to the community. We are still doing some work at the thrift stores and the enclaves. We clean at Hilltop, 4 churches, and then we work at the transfer station. We've switched the focus to comply with state and federal guidelines, kind of away from work, going to more living skills and outing access to the community-based stuff, just to comply with the state and federal guidelines that are coming in now. We're still using Friendly and Rainbow, Friendly Rider and Rainbow Rider to provide most of our transportation, and that's working well. The only problems with that are sometimes when they have holidays off that we don't take off, then it kind of provides a little bit of a transportation issue, but we seem to manage that. Yeah, that's pretty much, I don't know, kind of a nutshell what we've been doing.
Any questions?
Corey, have you been invited to the Rainbow Rider meeting we're having coming up? Are we having one here in Todd County?
Yes, we are. We're having, when is the Rainbow Rider meeting? Next, like the Thursday, the 17th at, nope, that's not the right one.
20.
I scheduled it.
Anyways, you guys utilize Rainbow Rider, and it would be
Yeah.
great for you to attend.
Okay.
You know
I'll
when
find
that
out if
meeting is
Corey-
coming? It's
I
scheduled.
don't get those invitations anymore. I think Catherine might be getting them.
Oh, Catherine might be getting them. It could be,
But Samantha, we can get that to you and
Yeah,
Corey, and then.
Might have it already. I'd have to ask him, but yeah, if you can get it to us, we
perfect.
can definitely show.
okay.
Do you want him to attend on a regular basis or just to give an update?
Pardon?
Do you want him to attend regularly, Commissioner Newman, or just to give an
No,
update?
it's,
It's
we
a
have our
regular-
executive, or, what the hell is it called, Barb?
It's our TAC meeting that we
meeting, yeah.
have at
And
the
we have it like
county.
once a year.
Yep.
and we try
it's
to-
scheduled up here in the courthouse. Jackie, can you find it?
She's looking.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Because some years we jump on the bus and take a tour.
Yeah, that's a week from today. It's the 22nd, and it'll be here at 11 o'clock a.m.
Oh,
Yep.
Yes,
great.
the 22nd, yep.
Thank you.
I was looking too far out.
The month is almost gone.
I know it, crazy. But that would be a very good meeting for you to attend if you got any questions or concerns, with, it's Rainbow Rider that will be here that day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
okay.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in and stepping in for Corey. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. I think Nancy is next. So we have Sourcewell here. Nancy Utenhauer from Sourcewell on the Regional Mental Health Coordinator. I think there's some good stuff going on all the time with Sourcewell. So she's got a PowerPoint presentation just to quickly kind of run through.
And put that up.
Go ahead and go to the next slide. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. So a little history about the position. Not sure how familiar you are with it. A few years back, there was a Greater State of Mind mental health assessment done in the region that identified some gaps and barriers that exist in the mental health service delivery system. And out of that position, or out of that assessment, there was identified a need to create a position to have somebody who has some dedicated time to focus on addressing these gaps and barriers. It started through Sourcewell as a shared services position, so it was funded by the counties of the Region 5 counties plus Aiken. Aiken is involved through the Adult Mental Health Initiative. So those 6 counties. As of January 1st of 2025, Sourcewell is taking that position in-house, so there will no longer be a cost to the counties for that position going forward. I was hired in April of last year, so just about a year and a half ago. I am, like Jackie said, my name is Nancy Uitenhauer. I have worked in rural mental health for the majority, well, all of my career, about 25 years or so, and just really have a passion for working in rural areas to improve access. The assessment priorities that were identified at the time that that was done are listed on your screen here. Collaboration, transportation, workforce issues, stigma, crisis response, culturally responsive care, and then looking into new funding opportunities. We've really focused this first year on community collaboration and some of those crisis response kinds of things. So in no way was this position, to editorialize that things are not going well. We're doing, I think this area actually, having worked across the state in different rural areas, this region is actually ahead of the game in a lot of ways and has been really innovative in some of their solutions. So we're not in any way here because there's things that aren't right, but really just to build on what we've got. So some of the things that we've been working on in this first year is just really digging into the research. What's out there that's working in other rural areas that we could possibly bring to Region 5? Getting the right people connected so that we're not duplicating efforts, making sure that we're kind of streamlining processes, really getting good communication between the different parties that are involved in this work, staying on top of some of those legislative changes. There are constant changes in legislation around mental health, and so just really staying on top of those, and then really digging into some of that root cause. What is the cause behind some of the challenges that we're seeing? Looking for some of those solutions that maybe are creative and outside the box, things we haven't tried before, and then facilitating some initiatives to reduce those gaps and barriers. So some of the things that we're currently working on, we have through some funding through a Community Bridge Makers program, which is an initiative between Sourcewell, the Initiative Foundation, and Region 5 Development Commission. We've been able to hire a consultant to help develop a regional strategic plan, kind of the next step in that process. So we have the assessment, now we're developing a regional plan to get everybody kind of swimming in the same direction to make sure that we're working more efficiently and more effectively together. We're also working on some resource navigation assistance. It's become pretty apparent that there's a lot of challenges in knowing where to start and how to access care and when to access care and how to get into that system. So we're working on an initiative to really try to bolster up some of that navigation assistance in the region. We've also been bringing community partners together to have some real conversations about how do we work together more effectively and really fill some of those communication gaps that naturally happen when you have silos that exist in our mental health service delivery system. And then we're also looking at bringing some educational opportunities into the region to get our those that are on the front lines of mental health work really trained up and our first responders and some of those people who maybe don't have access to those trainings, getting them some additional educational opportunities.
Any questions?
So as you can see, there's a lot going on. Nancy's done an excellent job. I can't believe it's only been a year and a half. It feels like it's been longer. A lot has been accomplished, but we have some work to do yet, so. But I do appreciate Sourcewell in taking on the position because, you know, each year as there's a county portion, some counties, due to budget constraints, may not be able to support their portion of it, and that just takes that away. So Nancy's here to stay, and Sourcewell is committed to improving our communities around mental health, so appreciate that.
Questions? Any questions? No.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Okay,
coming
thank you.
in,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, lastly, we have Stephen here. Seems like a roadshow, Health and Human Services roadshow today, but this is the second half of, we talked about the unwinding dollars that was granted to Stephen's unit. And this is our plan in moving forward is we're able to do the center cubicles and then have the ability to add some workspace as we're all kind of crammed in there like sardines, but it's right sizing that space for electronic versus paper, and gave us the ability to add, how many additional spots in the middle?
Two.
Two.
Oh, no, in the middle there was
is
four.
Four, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
so we're adding a total of 6.
So as we have some dollars remaining to be able to invest that back in the employees and their workspace, you know, we're looking at the offices that are, have doors now and not an open working area. So Stephen's attached the proposal from Innovative, and it's a state bid. And that was done this time through the state bid, but we will have enough funding to support the project. So we could say it's budgeted if we are able to go to board at the next meeting. But Stephen, I'm gonna let you take over from here.
Jack, do you want to go into where this is getting funded from? I think we talked about it. But
It's from them, the unwinding dollars from the state.
So it was a total of 153,000 something.
And that had to be used within your department, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it
Could have
was,
been used for childcare, huh?
yeah, it was very
No,
specifically aligned to the
specific.
Very
eligibility
strict.
work.
And the longer that
Regulations.
this sits out there, the more in question it'll be that it'll be there. Because they're already asking where counties are at, what are they doing, why haven't they spent it? Even though there wasn't an end date, we know that there's a risk by leaving it there, and they've said that, so.
And these renovations were needed.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Great
Yeah.
questions, and
Yeah, Jackie covered most of it. It's also streamlining things a bit, getting things, you know, the desks are more streamlined, they're not so bulky, don't take up so much room, which allows us to add some extra space. Also improve the orientation of the stations, so there's less having your back to the door, which is never anybody's favorite, so. Better ergonomics, the lift desk allow the workers to stand, you know, it's electronic, you know, very little effort to be able to move up and back and forth, so.
Questions?
Bring it forward.
Okay. Next step would be bring it forward to the board meeting.
okay, we
All
can
right.
certainly do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, man.
That's it?